Today, we're going to do a meditation together to help you with your spiritual awakening. It will be a short meditation followed by a brief discussion, whatever arises, and you can ask me any questions in the comments and I will answer all of them to try and help you. So let's begin. Adopt a comfortable, but not slumped, but not too rigid a posture. If you can, it's best not to support your back and try and have it be fairly straight. Obviously, the spine does have natural curvature. And the way my teacher described it to me many, many years ago is like a number of flat stones on top of one another. That's the kind of description of your spine, or the vertebrae in your spine. So you're not stretching and super erect like you're trying to force something, nor are you completely slumped over. You're just kind of somewhere in between. And just feel comfortable. Start taking those deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. In through the nose again, out through the nose. You can either rest your hands gently on your lap or on your knees, or you may choose to hold your hands in each other. Just rest them, palms upwards. Just allow everything to be as it is. Some forms of meditation have an object of focus. It could be the breath. It could be the sensation of the breath as it leaves your nose. It feels warm on your upper lip when you breathe out, or cool as you breathe in. But the direct path teaches us to meditate without an object of focus, merely to observe what happens and just allow everything to be as it is. And your tongue just gently rests in your mouth, and it kind of just touches the front upper teeth and it towards the upper palate of the mouth. And the reason we breathe in and out through the nose is it can aid a deeper breathing and also for longer periods of meditation. It will prevent your throat from getting dry and leading to coughing or needing to have a drink, which can disturb the meditation. So as you continue to breathe deeply in through the nose, out through the nose, just observe what arises. And just as a passing river, if you imagine you're sitting at the side of a river, you don't try to stop the flow of thoughts or the flow of the river. You don't jump in and follow the flow of thoughts. You don't follow the river. You just watch from the sidelines as things arise and then fade away. This may be thoughts, it may be sensations, or it could be perceptions of hearing or seeing if you have your eyes open. And of course, there's a delicate interplay between each of these. Sometimes a thought which you don't create your thoughts, you are not mind, the mind just is. But sometimes a thought arises without you requesting it, and it creates a sensation, which again, you didn't ask for, and you weren't the actor of that thought. You didn't create that thought or the sensation, and yet it arises in you. In you, awareness. And sometimes the opposite can happen. You feel a sensation, maybe an ache or a pain or a twinge or an itch or a tickle or something. And that then leads to a thought. Again, this is all natural and normal. Despite what many people teach and believe, meditation is not about quieting the mind. Meditation is merely allowing everything to be as it is. Allowing everything to be as it is. Don't pass judgment on anything that arises. Don't try to cling to any positive sensation or feeling or thought. Don't try to reject or refuse. Just be the loving, open space of awareness that accepts everything and in which everything arises. If the thoughts or sensations become overwhelming and feel like a runaway train and you get caught up in them and really feel yourself being pulled back to separation, come back to the breath. Focus on one breath at a time, like you're welcoming a guest into your house. As the breath enters your nose, feel its journey all the way down to the abdomen as your stomach expands and then leaves again through the nose. You can, of course, return to the breath at any time throughout the meditation or throughout today to regain a temporary focus. And then, just like the thoughts or the perceptions or the sensations, you just let the breath go as well. And what you're trying to do here is absolutely nothing without trying to do absolutely nothing. And this is where we can get tripped up in meditation and spirituality, is this idea of letting go. Let go of letting go. You are not a problem to be solved. How you are and what you experience and the thoughts that arise are not wrong. Welcome everything into your loving arms of awareness. We only return to the breath as a temporary device if thoughts, perceptions, and sensations become overwhelming. If we find we cannot let them flow or let them be as they are, we feel we are being carried away by a torrent of thoughts or perceptions or sensations, the breath is like a life buoy which we throw into the river of thoughts for ourselves to then pull ourselves out. And you can feel during meditation all and any number of sensations. You can feel you've changed location. Your physicality may feel like it's changed. Your size, your space and time. You may see things visually or hear things. Embrace and accept all of this. Do not repel. Do not remain attached to. Just allow everything to be as it is. There can be a temptation to identify and interpret what happens during meditation. For example, if I see such and such an object or color or vision, what does that mean? Or if I feel such and such, what does this mean? Or if this thought arises, what does that mean? Does that infer or have any upper or higher meaning? Just allow everything to be as it is. Don't get drawn into the trap of interpretation and identification. At the highest level, which can also be referred to as the deepest level of understanding, you are this. The awareness that you are, the awareness listening to these words, the awareness feeling the sensation of your breath, is the same awareness from which all sensations, perceptions, and thoughts arise, and the same awareness within which they are all visible and perceptible. There is no separation. Everything is you. You are simultaneously everything, but also therefore nothing. And now you can gently open your eyes, wiggle your fingers, and come back, so to speak, even though you never went anywhere, of course. Meditation is initially when an apparent individual considers themselves to be separate, is initially a useful tool to explore self-inquiry and investigate the nature of the I that you call yourself. It's also a very useful tool to study the mind and see how the mind operates. It can, however, be a potential trap where you use it to escape or try and escape reality, or you go into meditation wanting a certain state or wanting to attain a certain sensation or feeling. Or maybe you experienced a certain sensation or feeling in a prior meditation or spiritual experience, and you go into the new meditation wanting to reclaim that, wanting to re-experience that. But ultimately, meditation is not something that you do. It's just something you are. And I'll tell you a story about my son to explain this. Many years ago, when my son was just born, he was at this point about a year old. And I had a daughter as well. We have two children. And my daughter was 3 years old. My son was 1 year old. So back then, this is about 10 years ago, a little bit more, in order to try and meditate, because I was in a daily meditation practice, driving really hard to try and find something, I had to wake up really early in the morning. 5 a.m. was the only quiet time in the house. So I'd wake up early and I would meditate for half an hour before the kids woke up. And the rest of the day was chaos. And then by evening time, I was too tired to sit down and meditate without falling asleep. So at 5 a.m. every morning, I'd wake up and do the meditation for half an hour. And on some days, it was okay. I would make the 30 minutes. But on many occasions, partway through the meditation, I would hear my son crying from upstairs, and he needed his nappy or his diaper changed. And maybe my wife would get to him straight away, or maybe she was still asleep and I would get to him and I would leave the meditation, say, oh, I've been interrupted, I've lost my peaceful time, the meditation's kind of ruined. And I would go upstairs and obviously love to see my son and change the nappy, change the diaper, and maybe return to meditation, maybe not. But one day something interesting happened. I was meditating and I heard my son crying upstairs, and I just opened my eyes, and the meditative state never left. The meditation continued. There was an observing of walking up the stairs. There was an observing and an awareness of seeing my son and changing the nappy, and then an observing of going around my day. And the peace and the tranquility, the calmness and the loving space of awareness that was prior only present during meditation continued unabated thereafter. So it was a clear realization that there is no separation. Meditation, to begin with, is what you do on a cushion or a seat. But at some point it's realized there is no difference. You don't need to stay in a certain posture. You don't need to be in a certain place. It doesn't need to be quiet. You don't need to, inverted commas, do meditation. And over time, you get whittled away at. If you imagine like a stick, it starts out as a stick and it gets whittled away until it's a sharp point. And that's what happens to you as a result of spiritual inquiry. It's usually gradual, using a combination of meditation, studying, obviously watching videos, reading books, maybe attending retreats, inquiring within. And over time, your sense of separate self and the line between meditation and the line between meditation and life and the line between the seeker and the sought initially begins to fracture, then it begins to blur, and eventually it disappears entirely. This normally takes time. There are some rare occasions where it's almost instantaneous, and people who have contacted me for help who awakened almost overnight and weren't even on a spiritual path, literally were just going about their day, and then the next day realized they weren't a separate self. They weren't this name that they'd been calling themselves. They felt the oneness with everything. They felt like their separate self had essentially dissolved, and obviously it left them feeling completely bamboozled and confused about the situation. But normally it's a gradual process, and meditation can help that, and is required if it's required. If you feel drawn to meditation, then meditate. If you don't feel drawn to meditation, then don't meditate. Spiritual awakening is causeless. There's nothing the separate person or separate individual can do to cause spiritual awakening, because the separate person or individual doesn't truly exist. Awakening awakes up onto itself. It's like a cherry blossom tree, you know, those pink blossom trees you see in China. Some of the buds on that tree wake up and bloom instantly without reason, without logic. They just bloom very, very quickly. Others take more time to bloom, to blossom. They maybe take a longer period. Others fall from the tree before they blossom and are buried in the ground and are reborn as another tree that then blossoms. Every one blossoms and awakens without cause, and yet, as a concession to those who feel they are separate and would like an action to follow, meditation is quite often given as that. And if you've felt called to do it, then of course, by all means, do it. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I hope this has been helpful for you.